India, it's the early 1800s, a land of mystery, spirituality, and untold secrets. But lurking in the shadows is a man so feared, so notorious, that his name sends shivers down the spines of even the bravest souls. This is the story of Thug Behram, the leader of the Thuggee cult, and the man responsible for over 900 murders. Buckle up, because this tale is one for the ages. Imagine a night in the heart of India, where the air is thick with tension and the only light comes from a flickering fire. A group of men gather in a circle, their faces illuminated by the flames. At the center of this circle stands a statue of Kali, her eyes almost glowing in the dark, as if silently nodding her approval for the night's dark deeds. These men are the Thuggees, and they believe they are carrying out Kali's divine will. The term Thuggee derives from the Hindi word thug, which means swindler or deceiver. This organized group of criminals has left an indelible mark on history and language, giving rise to the modern term thug. They worshipped the Hindu goddess Kali and had one primary method of killing: strangulation with a red silk handkerchief. Kali is not just any goddess. She is a complex figure who embodies both nurturing and destructive energies. To the Thuggees, she is the ultimate divine force, the one who gives and takes life. They believe that each murder they commit is a sacrifice to Kali, appeasing her insatiable thirst for blood and chose. Before each mission, they would pray to her, asking for her blessings and guidance. After each kill, they believed their hands were cleansed by the very goddess they served. The Thuggees had elaborate rituals dedicated to Kali. They would offer her red hibiscus flowers, symbolizing her ferocity, and would often mark their foreheads with red tilak as a sign of their devotion. Some even believed that Kali would appear to them in dreams, giving them specific targets as offerings. The more devout Thuggees would carry small amulets or talismans of Kali, believing it would protect them from harm and make them invisible to law enforcement. New recruits to the Thuggee cult were often initiated in secret ceremonies that involved taking a blood oath to Kali. They would swear to serve her until their last breath, vowing to bring her the souls of travelers and wanderers. This oath was binding, and breaking it was considered the ultimate betrayal, not just to the Thuggees, but to Kali herself. The Thuggees were not just a group of criminals. They were a secret cult that existed for centuries. Their origins are shrouded in mystery, but they were believed to have been active since at least the 14th century. Some say they were descendants of those who worked in the Mughal camps, while others trace their roots to Muslim tribes that fled Delhi. Regardless of their origins, they became a phenomenon that struck fear into the hearts of travelers across India. The Thuggees were masters of disguise and manipulation. They comprised both Hindus and Muslims, and they often pretended to be of the opposite faith to deceive their victims. They would join groups of travelers, gaining their trust with friendly conversation and acts of kindness. They wore turbans and carried baggage, blending in seamlessly. Their goal was to lull their victims into a false sense of security before striking. Their primary method of killing was strangulation, usually with a handkerchief or noose, which led to them being called fansigar, a term more commonly used in southern India. The bodies would then be robbed and buried, leaving no trace of the crime. They were meticulous planners, only attacking when their numbers were greater than those of their victims. They operated in groups, often led by a jemadar, a term that suggests a military-style organization. They even had their own secret language, Ramasi, to communicate without arousing suspicion. Thug Behram, also known as Behram Jamadar and the King of the Thugs, was born in 1765. But it wasn't until the late 18th century that he would join the Thuggee cult, and is often cited as one of the world's most prolific serial killers. He may have been involved in up to 931 murders by strangulation between 1790 and 1840, performed with a ceremonial rumal, a handkerchief-like cloth used by his cult as a garrote. A rumal is a piece of clothing similar to a handkerchief or bandana. It is worn by men who cut their hair and other guests when they are in a gurdwara. Covering the head is respectful in Sikhism, and if a man is not wearing a turban, then a rumal must be worn before entering the gurdwara. Rumals are also worn by Sikh children on their top knot, and by Sikh males while engaging in athletic activities. In his childhood, Behram was quite shy and quite reluctant to mix up with the others, but by the age of 10, Behram has already started killing and terrifying people with his crimes. Later, he became friends to one of the notorious thugs, Syed Amir Ali. He was the person who introduced Behram in the world of Thuggee and also made him the head of it. Thug Behram, as per their cult traditions and his cult members, did not allegedly go after or kill women, fakirs, Muslim Sufi, musicians, lepers, and Europeans. They usually only attack traders, tourists, and pilgrims in mysterious ways. Thug Behram and his gang would gather in small groups by the side of the road, waiting for travelers to pass by. When they did, the thugs told them that they were traveling merchants or performers themselves and asked to join them. After all, there was safety in numbers. The thugs then followed along with their victims, sometimes for days or even months, slowly gaining their trust. Often, other groups of thugs would join the party along the way. When the thugs felt the odds were in their favor, they would strike. In groups of 3, the thugs would stalk through the camp. One man would grab the victim's arms and another the legs. The third would then strangle the victim with a silk cloth. In a single blood-soaked night, the thugs could kill hundreds of people this way. Behram, he had a flair for the dramatics. He loved an audience. He would start his killings while others watched, paralyzed by fear, unable to stop him. His flamboyant cruelty became his signature, a calling card that struck terror into the hearts of people across India. Once the victims were dead, the thugs would loot anything of value and carefully hide the bodies. The ultimate sacrifice to Kali complete, the thugs would go their separate ways. It was a pattern that repeated itself in the shadows of India for centuries. No one knows exactly how many people met their end this way. But the life of Thug Behram, or at least what we know about it, which admittedly isn't much, is a good example of how deadly even a single thug could be. Many thugs may have been born into the group. The murderous trade was often passed down from father to son. For many, this was their reality. From a young age, they were indoctrinated into the Thuggee cult, learning the art of deception, the secret language of Ramasena, and the sacred rituals dedicated to the goddess Kali. It wasn't just a job, it was a way of life, a legacy. Fathers would train their sons in the chilling art of strangulation, passing down the ceremonial rumal like a treasured heirloom. The skills, the beliefs, and the thirst for blood were all inherited, making the Thuggee cult not just a group of criminals, but a lineage of killers. Behram was a particularly gifted strangler. His preferred tool was the cloth sash he wore on his waist inside it. Behram had sewn a heavy medallion. He could then throw this medallion around the victim's Adam's apple, allowing him to strangle them with deadly force. From 1790, literally thousands of people kept disappearing. Things got so bad that investigators were sent down from England to locate the source of the disappearances. While the team of 5 detectives were all killed, they had been able to report back to then Governor-General Francis Rawdon Hastings the name of Thug Behram. Nothing else was known, just that one name. And the British went to work with that one name, not that it helped them much. Every Englishman that tried to investigate or infiltrate the Thuggees would wind up dead. Under Behram's leadership, the Thuggees were believed to have grown into an over 2,000-strong force of killers. Entire convoys of traders, complete with British guards, would disappear without a trace and would eventually be found as piles of skeletons years later. By the early 1830s, the golden age of the thugs was crashing to an end. The British, who had colonized India, now turned their attention to the group under Superintendent William Henry Sleeman. Captain William Sleeman was assigned the responsibility of capturing Behram and investigating Thuggee operations in 1828. It took him over 11 years and nearly cost him his life on 3 separate occasions before he finally succeeded in capturing a 75-year-old thug, Behram, in 1839. Sleeman used a classic tactic that we have used in modern day against organized crime groups, granting certain thugs immunity for their crimes if they informed against the others, meaning that the British promised that they would not hang on the noose for their crimes. It now became that the thugs that didn't know who they could trust. Within a decade, a criminal cult that had lasted for centuries started to crumble. The noose started to tighten around Behram. He might not have known it at the time, but Sleeman was able to capture his first lieutenant, Sida Mir Ali, known in the countryside as Faranghai, on account of his looking like a white man. In 1832, Faranghai was tortured and eventually persuaded to turn King's evidence. He took Sleeman to many of the graves the Thuggees had used for their victims. In all, the British found the skeletons or corpses of around 500,000 people. Faranghai then helped the British locate and capture Behram. When the time came, Captain William Sleeman and his men located Thug Behram and busted through his door while he was with a woman in bed. Behram was then apprehended and swiftly convicted and sentenced to death by hanging. While he maintained that he had killed 931 people and witnessed the murders of 956 people in all, wearing it as a badge of honor. The British, for some strange and unfathomable reason, spread word that Behram had only committed around 150 murders on his own, and had only merely been present for the other 931 murders. Behram was hanged in private in 1839, though his corpse was shown to the public. But to this day, Behram is officially recognized as the serial killer with the most victims. 931 people killed by strangulation. Today, the term thug has been stripped of its religious and cultural nuances, but the legacy of the Thuggees and their dark devotion to Kali remains a haunting chapter in history. It serves as a grim reminder of what can happen when religious fervor is twisted to justify unspeakable acts. And there you have it, the bone-chilling tale of Thug Behram, a man whose name still echoes through the annals of history as one of the world's most prolific serial killers. His dark devotion to Kali and the Thuggee cult serves as a haunting reminder of the depths humanity can sink to when twisted by religious fervor. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this journey into the shadows of history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you will never miss another spine-tingling story. This is Whisper in the Rain, signing off. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and most importantly, stay safe.